So we're back with Phil Hughes, ventriloquist, comedian, and chef here at the Showboat Branson, right? So we were talking
They wouldn't
about...
be eating here if I was a chef. Trust me, they'd be like,
I
"Oh,
wish I
wow.
was a chef. I
What?
love to
Grilled
cook.
cheese again? What are we doing?"
But here is a challenge. I've talked to every comedian. I talked to James from Pierce Arrow. I know you've
Sure.
been to the show.
Oh, yeah.
I love James. I think
James,
he's
great guy.
great.
Great.
I've talked to a lot of comedians from around town, Jamie and Perry and them, about the challenge of working in Branson, where when you're on ships, I've done Vegas, I've done New York, I've worked in LA. Here, they're very lenient on repeating material. Should we say that? What is that? Borrowing material?
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
Okay, that's not quite repeating. That's
Repeating somebody else's.
repeating
material.
somebody else's. Yeah, I don't like that. That's a.
Have you noticed that?
I've noticed that. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
It really bothers me.
It bothers me as well.
And I was warned about that when I first came here. They said, because my act was really unique. I hadn't been to Branson. I didn't know anything about it. So I get here and do my act for a couple weeks. And then somebody came to the show and said, "I love your act. Get ready. It's going to be at every theater in town." I'm like, why would I work at other theaters? And they said, "No, you misunderstand." And so that is an issue here. And people seem to be okay with that. Have you noticed that?
I've noticed that. I've noticed that in a number of places, not just Branson, but it's. I think it's a town that you have so many venues, and it eats up so much material, and they need people to work it.
Yeah.
And they find someone and said, "Oh, well, you can just get this. I saw this guy do this," and I find that so distasteful. I think I don't know how to even express it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Now, I'll tell you my take on it is that Branson is all about being safe.
Sure.
In the entertainment, you don't want anybody to be offended. It's about clean humor.
Right.
And so if they see an act somewhere
That works.
and they know it works,
Yep.
they're going to do that.
Right.
Because they're not taking a chance.
Right.
Because if you do something really unique and it fails, then it's your fault.
Right.
And so I think it's just shifting the blame.
It's shifting the blame and just taking the easy way out. It's almost. I have always said it's harder to write clean material than it is something that's off color. Even borderline material is easier than clean material.
Right.
So and it's how do you find that many talented people who are willing to come out here and relocate and work here in these theaters?
Yeah.
You know, there
Craigslist.
are
I think
plenty out
Craigslist.
there.
Yeah.
There are plenty out there. But they're doing their own show, and they may not be able to move or this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there are some talented people, and you're right. The people at the venue go, "Here, this will work. Do it."
Right. Right.
And they're basically spoon feeding them. It's going, "Here,
Yeah.
this is the
We'll
material
pay
we
you
want you
to
to
do
do.
this.
Yeah,
Do you wanna
you're
get
just
paid?
a
Do
face.
this.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't agree with that.
Because I know some of the shows in town that have certain characters, when that person leaves, they just hire somebody else to do the same routine.
Right. And if it's unique to their theater and they've developed that for their theater, I don't have anything against that. That's fine. If it's
Unique to them.
unique to them and written for them and it was their venue's material, no
Yeah.
problem with that.
Yeah.
But if you go out and I was on a cruise ship and I saw this guy do this, let me stick it here because
Exactly.
nobody will ever see that.
Or on YouTube, watch this. What
Right.
do you
Oh,
think?
yeah.
YouTube has been a problem. Or America's Got Talent.
Right. Well,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about that. I'm sure you get
Yeah.
that all the time about the ventriloquist
Yeah.
that won. I
Yeah.
get it about Matt Franco.
Sure.
And, there's been a lot of problems with some of those people.
Yeah.
And I have friends that are jugglers on cruise ships, and they were asked to go on, as was I a few years ago.
I was asked to go on numerous times.
And
Yeah.
Janice was
Yeah.
helping me work on an aerial act for that and some other. I don't know if we ever talked about that. But then the America's Got Talent people came to me just exactly like you're saying and said, "Can you do this act?
Right.
Can you
Oh,
do this?"
yeah.
And I said, "No, that's not mine."
Yeah.
But they didn't really care.
Yeah.
And that bothered me a lot.
It bothers
And
me a
so
lot. Yeah.
I was telling some juggler friends of mine, and they didn't want to go on the show. They said they went, they talked to them, and they were afraid that they would do their act and everyone would rip it off.
Sure.
And that's a big problem because that's our livelihood.
Anytime you're on TV, you do this, they see it, and then the next time you go out and they go, "Well, I saw you do that."
Yeah.
So that's a problem as well. But at the same time, you get so many people, aspiring jugglers, ventriloquists, comedians, whatever, magicians say, "Oh, that's a great bit. I'll do that. It's in my
Exactly.
act."
Mm-hmm.
No.
Doesn't work that way.
No. And it won't be done as well.
Right.
I walked into a comic club and someone did the punchline of my joke. A bunch of comics were doing an open mic at a Funny Bone, and they did the punchline. All these comics waiting to go on laughed like it was the funniest thing they ever heard.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, it was a very unique punchline.
Right.
I walked back, and the MC stopped me, and he said, "Oh, He says, well, so-and-so was back. She did your bit. They
Yeah.
thought it was funny, and he just called it back. I'm like, she took my... So that night I went up, and I did it because I thought, it's mine. I own
right.
it. And and then they saw me do it. They knew it was mine because of the way it was told.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I hate it when people say it's a tribute or they're
Oh,
paying
yeah.
you, you know,
Yeah,
an honor.
no.
And the way that there was recently a magician that put a YouTube video on doing an act that was very similar to somebody else's. I truly believe he wasn't trying to take this other guy's act,
Okay.
but it was his signature piece, this other guy. And everyone was defending the magician that performed it and saying, well, it's a tribute. And the creator of it said the same thing I did. If somebody goes on television and does an imitation of my act, okay, even if people know it's me, and then I try to get booked on something, they're going to say, well, that was already on
That's right.
this show. Even if it was done really poorly,
Right.
you know, they're not going to care. When I came to Branson, went to the Presleys, went to some other shows, I had a certain act that I was going to do. It was the lean, if you know what it is.
Okay.
Okay? And I came here with this set act, went and saw that show, and they did a version of it, not even as a magic trick, just as a little aside. And I decided, no, it's too close. I don't want to do it.
Right.
You know, so I cut it, stayed up all night, came up with a new bit, all that. And then after a couple weeks, noticing that that wouldn't have been a problem. People wouldn't have cared if I left it in. And that kind of bothered me. You know, I thought it was kind of strange. Because doing comedy clubs, like you're saying, or doing some of these other venues, you do that, you're blackballed. Like, you're not going to work. Where here, you get, not here, but in Branson,
Right.
you'll get rewarded sometimes. Yeah. I mean, what bothers me is when somebody keeps winning recognition as a great comedian or a
Right.
great performer, and clearly you know whose material that is.
Whose material, or that's just a mishmash of everybody's material.
Yeah.
Well, when there was someone who was on America's Got Talent, and someone came up to me, did you see what this guy did last night? He did this, this, and this. And I said, oh, I don't know. Why is this guy on there? He doesn't need to be on America's Got Talent. He says, no, it's not him.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's his act.
Yeah.
So,
What do you do?
yeah.
There's nothing you can do. And that's why here we're lucky, because we perform so much that we can
Right.
keep changing and tweaking our material. And I've had people try to imitate my act around town, and it's just terrible. I had a comedian that would see videos of my act, but because I do a pre-show, which we don't record, and then my show, which he had a recording of,
Right.
he saw the callbacks. And so he would do the callbacks.
But the setup wasn't in.
No. And it became a running gag because everybody knew that he was doing this. And he would just say these lines and get no reaction. He didn't understand what was wrong with him. Right. But for all of those people, we do still also have very unique acts in Branson.
yes, we do.
We have some great comedians, Paul Harris and some others in town.
James Sibley, phenomenal.
James is great. I haven't seen his act. I'm going to go down
Oh,
and see it. We should do
you
that.
have to. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we'll go see it, and then your wife can finally make me some time.
There you go. Sounds good.
Let's do that.
All right.
So it's been fun talking to you.
You too.
Come out to the Showboat and see the Showboat Branson Bell's noon show. You guys are done in a few weeks.
Yes.
Towards the end of November here.
Right, right.
But come by and see Phil Hughes. I'm Christopher James. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for supporting All Things Branson. Be sure to subscribe and stay in touch on Facebook and Twitter. Check back at allthingsbranson.com for the latest news about Branson, Missouri.